I want to talk about parapsychology, the subject, and the psychological department, and the study of telepathy and remote viewing and clairvoyance, and how all those things actually meet up into a diagnosis of schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, or even personality or borderline personality disorder sufferers. What it is, it's an underground organization that's ran through what they would call mysticism, but I mean, it's more in the form of magic and energies and slavery and things like that. So basically what they're doing is they're tying up all their so-called announced psychological issues, but technically what they are is everybody has a psychotic side. It's completely normal. It's a part of nature and evolution and the human psyche. And basically what happens is people get worried because of Jesus psychology and stuff like that, and then they start saying that I don't want to have my psychological side or my anger and aggression because my cortisol or my norepinephrine or my adrenaline is all out of balance, and I'm too aggressive through my stress chemicals, and so what they do is they tie up the hostage, the slave is what they call them, spiritual slaves, and they tie them up to these bad areas of their psychotic mind, and these are what society would call holy men, but really what they are is a reverse creation of the devil, not God's devil, but the devil that we create inside our minds. So basically, I mean, this really has nothing to do with religion or anything, but the truth is that they tie up all these psychological issues that they have to the schizophrenic or the bipolar disorder sufferer or the personality disorder sufferer, and they tie up all these mental conditions to the patient, and they literally drive them crazy through what is explained in the psychological department as parapsychology. Parapsychology is the study of things like telekinesis and telepathy and stuff like that. So, I mean, what they're basically doing is they're tying up people that have people that are ugly or misshapen or fat or disgusting, people that they picked on and stuff like that in school, and they're targeting these individuals, and they're saying inside their minds and telepathy through entanglement, through biophotonic entanglement, they're focusing on the little tiny areas of their minds. And some of these people live extraordinary lives in fame and fortune and live for exaggerating amounts of time. Some of them could probably even be considered immortal. Now, for myself personally, I haven't actually met anybody that hasn't been alive for longer than what the average person has been alive for, but I mean, I've witnessed some things and stuff like that, and studied some things and found articles that I've dug up online on the subject, and I mean, it seems to be, in right now, a little bit of a smoke. I mean, it doesn't seem to be 100% plausible, but I mean, it seems to be undeniable, because there still seems to be some evidence of these kinds of circumstances and cases, but they're attaching themselves to your mind, and they're growing off of you, and I mean, people are growing body parts and new hearts and new livers, and they're studying the areas of the mind through telepathy. They're focusing on an area using magic, using a spiritual slave that connects them to your mind, so it keeps sending out a consistent message. So basically what it is they're telling these schizophrenics what they want and what they want to see, and they're entangling to a specific area of their mind, and they're having conversations back and forth, and they'll argue with the mind until the mind breaks and gives in, or they'll put it in immense amounts of pain and suffering until it conforms and submits to what it is the request of the person outside of the mind is requesting of them. So I mean, things can get pretty intense. They'll cover you in deceit and heat, they'll cover you in pain, they'll cover you in itchy energy, they'll cover you in dark energy, they'll literally cover you in just about anything. So I mean, what these people are doing is more than criminal. I mean, that they're enslaving women to pornography and stuff like that, and some pornography stars are putting themselves on video so they have an extreme orgasm, because at the time, through time, since time is simultaneous, the level of men who masturbate to the video and stuff like that, and even women, it comes shooting back down through their lines and into that moment that they made the film. So they have extreme pleasure in sex. It feels really, really good for them. Those are the ones that aren't spiritual slaves. They literally lock these people up in boxes and they just beat the crap out of them. The best way to break their spells, if any of you guys are experiencing any kind of psychological illnesses, to keep chanting things like breaking entanglement, breaking telepathy, breaking energy, breaking slavery, and just keep chanting it over and over and over in your mind, and just keep doing it over and over and over and over again, and eventually the spells will start to weaken and they'll break. So I think that the best thing that people should probably be doing to prepare for this, for those of you who are actually in these situations, is start working on chanting meditations. I found those work the best. Eventually at some point in time, it'd be nice to start a civil suit against the government for their negligence and their lack of care for the community and for their hostages and victims and stuff like that are stuck in these psychological warfare games, which really aren't games. They're people requesting things from the minds of these mentally ill patients, and they'll do anything to get what they want. They'll never stop until they get exactly what they want, like in full. The reason why a YouTube view goes out so high, like in stuff like that, is because a person will literally latch on to like a schizophrenic will do extraordinary things to get out of pain. It'll do all the right things. It'll do all the things it's supposed to do. It'll take all the right turns and all the right angles. It won't attack. It'll just lay there in pain. The patient will. And basically what happens is a level of fame and gratitude and a level of achievement starts to build, and then it builds into societal's collective consciousness, and they start cheering for that person. And then what these outside sources, these outside entities, these people, these individuals, they'll feed off of that and they'll become that person. So I mean, technically what happens is they absorb the personality of that schizophrenic or something like that for all the really good things that they do, and I mean, and they'll just grab onto it, and then they'll become the person, the schizophrenic, like in person. So like when we see them mentally, we say, oh well, that's Joe Blow, and he's been in all this pain fighting this long war for America and fighting for everybody's interests and stuff like that, and they'll absorb that level of personality from that person, and people will literally think subconsciously that that person is them, but it really isn't. So that's how people get significant amounts of YouTube likes and Facebook likes and stuff like that, is because they have a spiritual slave or spiritual hostage. It goes to the same thing for fame, how people get seen. So I mean, technically, the best thing, I mean, that's how you spot these people out. So I mean, I wouldn't expect that this film that I'm making right now, this short film, is really actually going to go far, because I don't think that many people are going to see it unless they do some in-depth searching, and the ones who find the in-depth searching are actually going to be able to study the things that I'm discussing. But again, the psychological department that you look for these kinds of things, if you're suffering from any of these illnesses, is parapsychology. And I mean, they can do magnificent things. They can, I mean, some of them, as far as what I've seen and studied, I mean, that some of them can shapeshift, and I mean, like, they can do immense amounts of things with the mind, because they've been alive for so long that they've literally seen everything. And people can live off these moments, and you might ask how something like that is possible. But I mean, it's really actually simple. Like, if you were to lose a limb in like a war or something like that, and require require that you regrow a limb, basically what you do is you climb into your fetile area of your mind, in your developmental mind, and then you would redevelop the necessary stuff to tell something to grow. Like if you needed new teeth from when you were a child and you lost your teeth and new teeth grew, and you just got to re-access that area of the mind. They call it an ego, but I mean, it's an area of focus, concentration, and muscle inside the mind, and then they manifest things off of it. Like, there are Tibetan monks that have been known to publicly, I mean, like, and show evidence of it, like, have bloomed beads into their bodies, like, into existence, and when they get cremated, you can see the remains, that they're balls. And I mean, people are are literally storing themselves in people's minds so that they can reincarnate out of them. I mean, the level of things that people do in the spiritual community and the magic community is extremely immense. Now, I mean, there's also other tactics that you can use too, like because you're expected to not hurt or harm, and you normally don't hurt or harm, and most people end up medicated anyways. But the truth is like what you do is you start to do what they tell you to do mentally, not physically. You don't act it out. So like I mean, like when they say kill yourself, like in your mind to start killing yourself and like literally do that, because it'll scare them off your lines, because they're feeding off your thoughts and off your mind, and that's how they're able to create and do the things that they do. So basically, when you start doing that in your mind, they don't actually want that to be a part of their thoughts. You're going to have to eat up your subconscious, and you're going to have to accept that there are casualties in every war, and sometimes you need to just project out those things. The odds of them actually hurting themselves or somebody else is so slim to none that it's probably non-existent, like in a statistic. But I mean, like I mean, there's always the possibility or potential of it. But when they tell you that, or like you should, if you have like the directive type of auditory hallucinations that tell you to do bad things, they're testing you to see if you'll do those bad things, because if you won't, then they can feed from your mind and they can become a more holy type of individual. So basically, what actually happens is when you start projecting out those negative things, like, all right, it says to kill Joe Blow, so I start killing Joe Blow in my mind, and I do it over and over and over again, because they're not going to want those thoughts, because they're not that kind of people. I mean, and they call Satan the devil. The devil is actually the guy who holds the truth. They call him the devil because he knows the truth, and he'll expose them, and he'll show the world who they are. And then you find out that it's actually a reverse type of thing, where everybody is the devil, and I mean, and you're actually the angel. But I mean, under the definition of what they teach of as in what's right or wrong. So I mean, like it's really, I mean, there's puzzling things that can happen the deeper and more you dig into it. But as for your paranoia, it's best to just get over it as soon as possible. For your hallucinations, just close your eyes and go into meditation and pull the hallucinations into your mind with your eyes closed, and keep training yourself that way over and over and over again. If you're having voices and you don't experience any kind of energy, start manifesting things like Kundalini energy. It'll show the enslavement spells. They're clear and light, and they're about as light as air, because people manifest light as air, and then they create it out of the air and drop it under, so you can't feel them. But sometimes you can. When the energy starts pumping through, that's when you start feeling portals open up under your bed, and you start feeling demons touch you and stuff like that, and spiders crawling all over the top of you, and I mean, it's an area, it's mental, it's all mental. But I mean, it's I mean, some of these things get close to near creation, which I mean, the illusions become near reality. So I guess the best way to study this and to bring this up, I mean, eventually I'm going to try to bring up a class action lawsuit against the government entirely for all the allowment, because I mean, they're all, I mean, state officials and presidents and congressmen and senators and therapists and counselors and psychologists and psychiatrists and I mean, even gym teachers, you know, and even English teachers. I mean, a lot of these people are actually in on it, and they're a part of it. So secret society really isn't secret society. It's not what you think it is, because average people in everyday life are involved in the kinds of things that you would consider to be secret society. So I guess the best thing to do is do what you can to escape and use some of those things that I said. If you're not experiencing any kind of energy, manifest Kundalini energy every day. Just keep visualizing thick energy in your mind, and it'll start to build, and then you'll start to see all the enslavement spells that have you tied up. So what I do is, if any of you guys need to, I mean, and do chanting meditations like breaking the spell, breaking entanglement, breaking telepathy, and just chant it for about an hour in your mind over and over and over and over again. And then you'll see that the attachments to your brain, they say that they don't come inside the skull, but they do, because they trick the skull they trick the brain into believing that they're inside of the skull, and then the brain absorbs the magic, and then they manifest off the strength and creation of your brain entirely. Once you break the spell, you'll find out that I mean, you can de-age, you can go from 35 back to 25, and like, I mean, just the amount of things that can change for you are I mean are freaking are not astronomical, but I mean like incredibly increased chances. I mean, so I mean, what I would do is I learned to break the spells. If any of you guys have personal questions, you can find me on Facebook. It's Stupefied Budster. It's just Stupefied and then Budster. You can find me on Facebook and you can ask me questions there. Anyways, thank you. Bye.